It's hard-hitting. It's riveting. It's the much-talked-about cover story during Nationwide at 5. Here Cliff Hughes get to the heart of the story of the day. Cover Story aired 5:30 weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Nationwide at 5. Talk radio at its best. Cover Story.
Cover Story is brought to you by JTA Credit Union, serving our members, impacting lives positively.
Multilink, roll with control. Use Multilink, save fast and accepted in more locations.
He never shies away from taboo topics. Voyagings after dark.
The most riveting discussions.
Voyagings after dark.
Topics that are shunned by society.
And everything else in between. Voyagings After Dark with Korean Voyagings this and every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
You can't miss.
What's buzzing?
Celebrity outfits.
Is that a hit or a miss?
Bust the odds.
Jamaica's Got Talent.
Wait, man.
Hot takes.
Talk up the things.
Actual factual.
Life is short.
Voyagings After Dark.
Come get your mind blown.
And your curiosity explored.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Wake up, Jamaica.
It's another glorious day on Nationwide this morning. From your 6 a.m. alarm to the news at 6. Coming up in the news at 6 to me telling you what's on my mind.
To more news at 7 a.m. Coming up in the news at 7. And then the biggest issues dissected, interrogated and discussed on the front page. Nationwide this morning fires you up and sets you right for the remainder of the day.
And there's much more until 9 a.m. Want to know which roads to avoid on your morning commute?
Time now for Street Smarts 2 with Ludwig McLean.
Listen to Street Smart.
Want to hear more about things happening at the community level outside the bustling corporate area? Listen to Across Jamaica.
George, it's someone's birthday.
Happy birthday, yeah, my friend.
And that someone will hear a special greeting.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
News at 5 teasers are brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Robeanne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Independent Fiscal Commission questions potential credibility of the budget amid concerns over the government projections.
Remittances to Jamaica rise sharply in December.
Prime Minister Holness defends continued drawdown from NHD.
The government isn't taking the resources from the NHD for reasons that are not of national importance and concern.
Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says work progressing on new electricity license.
Foreign Affairs Minister says U.S.-Jamaica relationship remains healthy despite recent comments from Florida Congressman.
There's really no concern regarding misplaced perspective that might be taken by an individual.
In news from the rest of the world, Air France to suspend flights to Havana, a new blow to Cuba's tourism sector.
U.S. Senate to vote on Trump's war powers as Iran conflict continues.
In sports, more British-born footballers acquire Jamaican passports ahead of World Cup qualifiers in Mexico in 3 weeks.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, the Independent Fiscal Commission says while Jamaica's fiscal policy remains broadly sustainable, the path to recovery following the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Melissa is uncertain. We'll hear from Commissioner Courtney Williams.
In the nation's business at 6:25, Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says Jamaica should know within 2 to 3 months whether commercial quantities of oil and gas have been discovered here. He'll join us.
Taking you around the world at 6:45, Trinidad and Tobago is again under a state of emergency with regulations that grant sweeping powers that could affect social media use, protests, police searches, and detention. You'll hear more. At 7, it's the comments section with Shaloy Smikle and Mahiri Stewart. This evening, they're asking, should the defense of provocation in murder cases be struck from the law books? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio. Feel free to message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. And you can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
And at 8, it's Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings Weathers.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, RevoNews.ai, and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. This Wednesday afternoon, it's Wednesday, March 4, 2026.
News at 5 teasers were brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The latest report from Jamaica's Independent Fiscal Commission is questioning the potential credibility of the budget for the upcoming fiscal year due to concerns over the government's medium-term macroeconomic and fiscal projections. The report released on Tuesday highlights what Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams says are significant gaps in information critical to drawing proper conclusions. However, despite the concern, the Commission says Jamaica's fiscal policy remains broadly sustainable. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
The Economic and Fiscal Report, EFAR, is the Independent Fiscal Commission's assessment of the government's adherence to the country's key targets. It's essentially a report card of whether the country remains fiscally responsible. The latest one, provided by Commissioner Courtney Williams, finds that Jamaica's fiscal policy remains broadly sustainable. However, he warns that the fiscal outlook is uncertain. As such, he's urging the government to address multiple statutory and operational gaps to enable him to deem the 2026-2027 budget wholly credible. For example, the Commissioner is questioning the government's expectation of meeting the new debt-to-GDP target of 60% by 2030. According to Williams, the data at hand simply does not support that conclusion. In terms of the new revenue measures announced by the government, the EFAR says they seem broadly credible. However, the credibility of medium-term macroeconomic and fiscal projections are mixed and inconclusive. Commissioner Williams says the projections are preliminary and did not benefit from a detailed damage and loss assessment, DALA, from Hurricane Melissa. He continues saying, nor does the country have a better understanding of the operational and expenditure plans of the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA. Williams says these omissions significantly impact the Commission's ability to evaluate growth projections, nominal GDP, and thus revenue forecasts, among others. It should be noted that on Tuesday, the Planning Institute of Jamaica released a DALA from Hurricane Melissa. However, Williams, in speaking with Nationwide News, says the data, which shows a significant increase in damage from Hurricane Melissa, further calls into question the projections provided for the budget. Still, he notes that this does not materially change his concerns. Meanwhile, the Fiscal Commissioner is particularly concerned about expectations for nominal GDP for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-2027. He notes that the figures presented appear inconsistent with current inflation and historical post-disaster price behavior. However, Williams says this creates a significant risk of overstating nominal GDP, over-projecting revenue, and understating debt ratios. Furthermore, he describes the near doubling of the capital budget as overly ambitious in an environment of ongoing capacity constraints and procurement bottlenecks. The Fiscal Commissioner says, given the legacy of low execution of capital projects, it's implausible to expect the spend to increase compared to previous years. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Thanks, Siobhan. Net remittance inflows to Jamaica rose sharply in December 2025, contributing to moderate growth in flows for both the fiscal and calendar years. This is according to the latest data from the Bank of Jamaica BOJ. Mahiri Stewart reports.
For December 2025, net remittance inflows totaled $315 million, an increase of 13.6% or $38 million compared with December 2024. The outturn was largely driven by a 12% rise in total remittance inflows alongside a 7% decline in remittance outflows. The expansion in gross inflows was primarily attributed to higher transfers through remittance companies, while inflows via the other remittances channel recorded a marginal decline. For the fiscal year up to December, net remittance inflows amounted to $2.4 billion. This represents an increase of 4% or $96 million relative to the corresponding period of the previous fiscal year. This reflected a 4% or $100 million increase in total remittance inflows. It was partially offset by a 3.7% or $6 million rise in remittance outflows. Data on source markets showed that inflows increased across all major corridors in December. The United States of America remained Jamaica's dominant remittance source, accounting for 67% of total inflows during the month. Other key contributors were the United Kingdom at 12%, Canada at 9%, and the Cayman Islands at 7%. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says funds taken from the National Housing Trust, NHT, are diverted for matters of national importance. His comments come after the opposition People's National Party, PNP, strongly criticized the continued drawdown following the calling for the practice to end.
Whilst you can't stop people from being politically convenient, it's the nature of the democracy, but there has to be some honesty in politics. The government isn't taking the resources from the NHT for reasons that are not of national importance and concern. And yes, we acknowledge that these funds are contributed on the basis that they will be used for housing. And this cannot continue forever. The government has to use these resources to strengthen our economic base so that we don't have to take the resources out of the NHT.
The matter is back in the spotlight after the government announced it will continue its annual $11 billion drawdown of the trust for another 5 years. According to the PNP, the continued siphoning of funds from the NHT is hypocritical and shows a blatant disregard for contributors. But speaking at the official launch of the Chester Creek development in St. Catherine on Tuesday, Dr. Holness sought to reaffirm his administration's commitment to affordable housing while providing context to the decision to continue the drawdown. According to the Prime Minister, the issue of NHT finances needs to be seen from a broader context. He says when the government faces a budget deficit, the options to strengthen Jamaica's economic position are limited.
Ultimately, if you don't take the resources from the NHT and you have a massive deficit, you have to fund that deficit. And the only options that will remain to you in funding the deficit is either to cut the services to you or raise the taxes. There are no secret funds anywhere from which the government can deal with deficits. I think the public now understands that the international community is not coming to rescue us. I think the public now understands that borrowing is not an option. And therefore, we have to make wise choices with the resources that we have.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness.
The government is in the process of establishing a new framework for Jamaica's new electricity license in 2027. Energy Minister Darrell Vaz provided the update at a post-cabinet media briefing on Wednesday.
In November 2025, the ministry entered a new contract with Francis Maud Associates representing Phase 1 of a structured 3-phase reform process to establish a modernized license framework. The initial phase runs through April 26 and focuses on defining the key commercial, regulatory, and legal foundations for the new regime. The work is being carried out by a dedicated electricity license negotiation team comprises of officers of the Ministry of Energy, Transport and Telecommunications, Attorney General's Chambers, Ministry of Finance and Public Service, the OUR, as well as energy specialists from the private sector and academia.
The minister announced last year that the government would not be renewing its license with the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, under its existing terms. That license will expire in July 2027. Minister Vaz says negotiations with JPS over a new license will begin upon the completion of the new framework.
A draft heads of terms has already been prepared and submitted for Cabinet's consideration, which was done on Monday and approved, Monday meaning 2 days ago, outlining the principal features of the proposed license framework following Cabinet's approval. The detailed legal structure will be finalized and formal negotiations will commence with the Jamaica Public Service. Beginning in April 26, FMA's broader workstream schedule will advance into a 16-month sectoral framework development and implementation phase.
Darrell Vaz, Minister of Energy.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith says Jamaica and the U.S. continue to share a healthy relationship despite recent comments made by a U.S. congressman. Senator Johnson-Smith was speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing at the office of the Prime Minister.
Our meetings with Secretary Rubio and members of his delegation, as we all engaged at different levels, was entirely cordial, was productive, and you would see that from the posts made by Secretary Rubio himself. And therefore, there's really no concern regarding misplaced perspective that might be taken by an individual, as opposed to a broad recognition of the strong partnership that continues to subsist between the U.S. and Jamaica.
Writing on X last week, U.S. Congressman for Florida Carlos Jimenez accused Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness of siding with the Cuban regime. He was reacting to the Prime Minister's speech at the 50th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis. In his address to CARICOM, Dr. Holness expressed concern about the humanitarian and economic impact of the recent U.S. executive actions on Cuba. He argued that the measures come at a time when Cuba faces a deepening energy and economic crisis. Dr. Holness told CARICOM that the severity of the matter cannot be ignored. He then called for a more pragmatic, humanitarian-focused approach. Those comments angered the congressman. He publicly warned that Jamaica could face consequences for Dr. Holness's position on Cuba, raising questions about diplomatic pressure and possible sanctions. But Minister Johnson-Smith says the Prime Minister's speech was an accurate depiction of Jamaica's sentiments towards Cuba.
So we took note of the statement, the tweet. I'm not going to elevate it to a statement. We are 100% confident that the broad acceptance and recognition of the Prime Minister's statement was that it was balanced, it was visionary, it was realistic, it expressed the complexity of the circumstances of the relationship of Cuba with the region, while recognizing our grounded and fundamental beliefs in democracy and freedom and open markets as we practice and live here every day.
Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Following his address to CARICOM, Prime Minister Holness held bilateral talks with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the sidelines of the regional meeting. Posting on X, both men described those talks as positive. We'll have more after the break.
See twice the style for less at IQ Optical. Buy one pair of glasses and get your second and third pair half price. Don't miss out. Call 876-929-7732 or visit IQ Optical today, where clarity never looked sharper.
The time by IQ Optical is
5:16.
Termites, rodents, or birds infesting your home or office? Call Rentokil Initial, the pest expert, at 876-926-4236 for a free pest assessment island-wide. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 in Montego Bay. Continuing the news here, the Children's Cry says decriminalizing consensual sex between minors could open the door to exploitation. The Child Rights Lobby Group issued the warning as it reiterated its position before a joint select committee of Parliament reviewing the Child Diversion Act on Tuesday. But some legislators disagreed with its position. Shalois Michael reports.
The matter of decriminalizing sex between consenting minors has long been an issue of debate. Some advocacy groups argue that the move could help reduce the backlog of such cases in courts. But Hear the Children's Cry believes the idea spells trouble. Reiterating its stance at Tuesday's Joint Select Committee, the group's spokesperson Priscilla Duhaney says decriminalizing sex between consenting minors could create legal loopholes for gang members who exploit teen girls.
Within the garrison, because you have dons, because you have influential members, the young ladies that are there, a lot of the way the escape mechanism is for our children to be reported as missing because they are trying to hide from the dons who are soliciting them for sexual gratification. Even though it might be deemed as consensual, essentially, if we were to remove the law, then it is going to open up the floodgates where the law enforcement cannot prosecute or hold accountable.
Beyond that, Ms. Duhaney says the legislative change could bring about increased sexually transmitted infections and teen pregnancies.
When you have a number of children, minors, having consensual sex amongst themselves, one, you are still opening up yourself for teenage pregnancies, STIs. We are looking at an increase to the mental health of our children. And this is supported by data. The law is there for a purpose. It may deter some, it may not. And we are also in agreement with social intervention strategies.
The committee acknowledged the group's concerns, but some legislators still took issue with its position. They argued that decriminalization doesn't mean condoning the behavior. Instead, they say it seeks to prevent unnecessary criminal records for minors while still holding them accountable through meaningful interventions. Committee Chairman Delroy Chuck says decriminalization is likely.
The likelihood is that close in age consensual sex will be decriminalized. Even though it is decriminalized, we could still make it one of the areas where we have youngsters who are engaging in consensual sex. We would have to amend the law to say it's not necessarily a criminal offense, but misconduct, misbehavior, that such persons can be referred to child diversion.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Air France has announced that it will suspend flights for several weeks between Paris and Havana given Cuba's fuel shortage. According to the airline, flights to the Cuban capital from one of the airports in Paris will cease on March 28. Flights are scheduled to resume June 15. Air France says those flights are currently stopping in the Bahamas on return trips to refuel. Cubans are particularly affected by the suspension. They depend on these flights to get to Europe because they cannot travel via the United States. On February 8th, the Cuban government informed airlines and pilots that jet fuel would not be available at 9 airports across the island until March 11. Other airlines have stopped service to Cuba, including Air Canada.
Operation Epic Fury, tracking the joint U.S.-Israeli war against Iran and Iran's retaliatory strikes on U.S. assets and neighboring countries.
The U.S. Senate is set to vote on a war power resolution aimed at limiting President Donald Trump's ability to order further military action in Iran. The measure would require the withdrawal of U.S. forces from the conflict unless Congress approves the operation. But previous efforts have failed, and it's unclear how much its success would change the war. Democrats argue that Trump sidelined Congress and has offered shifting reasons for the war. Most Republicans say they will block the resolution, but may change their stance if the war expands. If it passes, it would still need to go through the U.S. House of Representatives, which is expected to vote on Thursday. The vote comes 5 days after the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran. Iran has responded by launching attacks on Israel and U.S. allied states in the Gulf.
Operation Epic Fury, tracking the joint U.S.-Israeli war against Iran and Iran's retaliatory strikes on U.S. assets and neighboring countries.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Independent Fiscal Commission questions potential credibility of the budget amid concerns over the government projections.
Remittances to Jamaica rose sharply in December.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness defends continued drawdown from NHT.
Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says work progressing on new electricity license.
I'm Robeanne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at revonews.ai and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
Whether you're buying your very first home, purchasing a more spacious home, or securing an investment property, a JMMB Bank mortgage gives you the confidence to take the next step. Enjoy low interest rates, competitive processing fees, a 1-month payment holiday available upon request, and exclusive merchant partner discounts to help you get move-in ready. Your dream deserves the right support. JMMB Bank Mortgage, you can do this. We can help. Speak with a mortgage specialist today at 876-998-JMMB or visit jmmb.com. Conditions apply.
Every day, Rosie has a glass of fruit drink with breakfast, an energy drink on the way to work, a flavored water with lunch, and 2 glasses of soda with dinner, which adds up to more than 50 teaspoons of sugar a day. And all that extra sugar could bring on obesity. Are we drinking ourselves sick? 71% of Jamaicans support a tax on sugary drinks. Help tackle obesity and protect our children's future. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica.
Need to make a change to your title or need a title? GeoLand Title Limited is the place to be. They do lost title application, add and remove names from titles, wills, estates, first-time registration, land surveys included, affordable rates and flexible payment options, National Land Agency adjudication and land titling waivers available. They have 8 locations island-wide. Call 876-754-6436 or visit their website at geolandonline.com. GeoLand Title Limited. Secure your land, secure your title.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Well, 2 British-born footballers acquired Jamaican passports last February, and they're now on course to representing the country at the FIFA Interconfed World Cup playoffs in Mexico later this month. Striker Ephron Mason-Clark of Coventry City and Andre Brooks of Sheffield United, both in the English Championships, have confirmed their availability for the 3-team playoff. Mason-Clark is a £10 million rated winger who's registered 7 goals and dished out 5 assists to help Coventry to the top of the English Championship at the minute. They're 5 points clear of their nearest rivals, and they're pretty much on verge of gaining promotion to the Premier League come next season. Brooks has so far scored 5 goals, and he has played 31 games so far this season for Sheffield United, who are currently 13th in the league table. 3 other British players also got Jamaican passports, but their availability for the playoffs and the Inter-Confederation Championships have not yet been confirmed. Jamaica will travel to Mexico on March 23. They've got a game 3 days later against New Caledonia in Monterrey, and if they win that game, they'll go on to play Democratic Republic of Congo for a place in the World Cup, and that game against the Democratic Republic of Congo will be on March 30, and the winner of that will go on to play in the World Cup. And of course, the group draws for that winner has already been made. Former champions Mount Pleasant Academy and Tivoli Gardens, they are 1-1 at sports time in their Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League midweek encounter at the Edward Seaga Sports Complex. Joshua Anglin gave Mount Pleasant the lead after just 8 minutes in the game, but Alton Lewis has drawn Tivoli level. He did so in the 72nd minute. And as we check, they're now into added time. They're still 1-1, 3 minutes so far into added time. Mount Pleasant, they started the day just 6 points behind the leaders, Montego Bay United, and Tivoli. They are 10th in the standings at the moment. They've got 29 points. 2 more games are on the schedule for tomorrow. That's on Thursday. Portmore United and Waterhouse will meet in a massive showdown over at Ferdinand Park. Malines United, who are blowing hot and cold for the season so far, they'll visit the champions, Cavalier. CEO of Cricket West Indies, Chris Deering, he has told Nationwide Sports that there's no timeline for the West Indies team to depart India. The team has been stuck in Kolkata since Sunday when they were eliminated from the ICC T20 World Cup at the Super 8 stage at crushing defeat to the host India. The two-time champions were scheduled to depart for the Caribbean on Monday, but they remain grounded due to airspace closure in the region, and that was triggered, of course, by the conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran. The ICC, who are responsible for getting teams to and from the World Cup, they're at the moment trying to get a chartered flight to take the West Indies team into the British capital, London. They'd given us a timeline for latest Thursday, that's tomorrow, but now Chris Deering says there's no timeline because they're still working on the chartered flight to get them out of Kolkata into India. And of course, the West Indies, they're hoping when the flight is confirmed that they can fly commercial to the Caribbean, whether in 2 or 3 batches. Finn Allen struck the fastest century in T20 World Cup history as New Zealand, they demolished the 2024 runners-up South Africa by 9 wickets at Eden Gardens on Wednesday to book their place in Sunday's big final, chasing 170 to win. Opener Allen bludgeoned 100 exactly, not out from 33 balls, including 10 fours and 8 sixes, as a ruthless New Zealanders rammed to a victory at 173 for 1, still with 43 balls to spare. They were really savage today. Now, Allen bettered Chris Gale's 47-ball century against England in 2016, but by 14 deliveries, with his knock also the joint third fastest century in men's T20 internationals. Tim Seifert thrashed a burst half-century of his own. He slammed the 58 of 33 balls as New Zealand's openers put in 117 runs from just 55 balls for the first wicket before Allen kicked into overdrive. He smacked 42 runs off just 11 balls to dominate the 56-run stand with Rashin Ravindra, including dispatching Marcus Jansen for 5 consecutive boundaries to complete an emphatic win. South Africa were previously unbeaten in the tournament, including a 7-wicket win over this same New Zealand team at the group stage. And we'll just close off a bit here with football. The race for the English Premier League title tilted decisively in Arsenal's favour a short time ago after they beat Brighton and Hove Albion 1-0 in their London derby, and Manchester City, the chasing team, playing out a 2-2 draw at home with Nottingham Forest. Bukayo Saka on his 300th appearance for Arsenal scored the winner in the 9th minute, and it gave the Gunners victory in that London derby that was played out at the Amex Arena.
Timber bringing the ball forward here. Saka, straight through the goalkeeper and in. He's marked his 300th game for the club with a significant early goal, and it's Arsenal ahead inside 9 minutes.
The win moved Arsenal to 6 or 7 points. That's 7 clear of City, who were held 2-2, as I mentioned, by Nottingham Forest over at the Etihad Stadium.
Another hugely important moment. Swinging in, a push in the back of Haaland, and the back of the net is bulged. But Manchester City lead again. Anderson gives one. It's Elliot Anderson. It's another fabulous Forest goal, and once again Nottingham Forest have come from behind. 2-2 at the Etihad.
Arsenal have played 1 game more than Manchester City, it's worth mentioning. Meanwhile, the Brazilian star João Pedro, he bagged his first Premier League hat-trick as Chelsea stormed past Aston Villa by 4-1 at Villa Park to improve their chances of Champions League football come next season. West Ham United, they moved further away from the drop zone. They scored a clinical 1-0 win over Fulham in another London derby. Meanwhile, Manchester United, their game just ended a short time ago. They suffered defeat for the first time in the Michael Carrick era. They were beaten 2-1 by Newcastle United at St. James's Park. Yeah, very, very good English Premier League. 1 more game to go in this round of the Championship. Spurs against Crystal Palace. Another London derby that will be played out at the Tottenham Stadium on Thursday. And that will do it for sports at this time. We're going to be back, though, at 6:05 with much, much more. Alex Swaby will be your presenter then.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is...
It's now 5:32.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
He never shies away from taboo topics. Voyagings After Dark.
The most riveting discussions.
Voyagings After Dark.
Topics that are shunned by society.
And everything else in between. Voyagings After Dark with Kareem Voyagings this and every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
You can't miss.
What's buzzing?
Celebrity outfits.
Is that a hit or a miss?
Bust the odds.
Jamaica's Got Talent.
Wait, a war man.
Hot takes.
Talk up the takes.
Actual factual. Life is short. Voyagings After Dark.
Come get your mind blown.
And your curiosity explored.
You may have been hearing the teasers. Now it's official. Beginning Monday, February 9, 2026, Nationwide News Network launches something special. The Nationwide Family Club, exclusively on Patreon.
With the Family Club, members get early access to our documentaries before anyone else. Some of your favorite segments, including Cliff Says, What's on My Mind, Cover Story, and others will now be a click away inside the Family Club. There are 3 tiers of membership. First, Bronze, the Family Insider, behind-the-scenes access, Monday motivational videos, members-only chats, and on-air birthdays and anniversary shoutouts.
Second, Silver, Nationwide VIP. Breaking news alerts, exclusive documentaries, quizzes, personal milestones celebrated on air, and weekly family roll call mentions. Oh, and for our biggest supporters,
our gold category, elite listener, full archive access, early releases, private studio tours, live show experiences, personalized birthday videos, and exclusive live streams. From historic election coverage to lifetime, impact, Jamaican milestones, and rare archive content. This is Nationwide like you've never seen it before.
Join the family, support Nationwide 90 FM, the station that informs, entertains, and educates. Visit patreon.com/Nationwide News Network. That's patreon.com/Nationwide News Network. Nationwide Family Club, where you are family, because we see you as family.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. Welcome. It's time for the cover story, and I'm Siobhan Campbell. I hope all is well out there. Those on YouTube, those still traveling or elsewhere, I hope your day is being well. We have matters to discuss this evening, and we start with the Independent Fiscal Commission, which has tabled its latest economic and fiscal assessment report. This is to offer an independent review of the government of Jamaica's fiscal position and macroeconomic outlook for the 2026-2027 fiscal year and the medium term. And while the Fiscal Commissioner, Courtney Williams, that is, concluded that Jamaica's fiscal policy remains broadly sustainable, he is warning that recovery from Hurricane Melissa presents significant uncertainty. The Category 5 system was struck on October 28 last year, caused an estimated $2 trillion in damage, prompting activation of the Fiscal Responsibility Framework's escape clause to allow temporary suspension of the fiscal rules through to March 2027. As a result of the shock, the Fiscal Commissioner says Jamaica is now unlikely to meet its revised target of reducing debt to GDP to 60% by fiscal year 2029-2030. The report raises concerns about the credibility of the government's medium-term macroeconomic and fiscal projections, describing them as mixed and inconclusive. The Commission is also questioning the 9.2% nominal GDP growth forecast for fiscal year 2026-2027, noting potential inconsistencies with inflation trends and post-disaster price patterns that could lead to overstated revenues and understated debt ratios. Well, to discuss further, we are joined by Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams. Good afternoon, Sir Williams.
Good afternoon, Kevin, and good afternoon to all your listeners.
Good afternoon to you, sir. Just off the bat, Sir Williams, because I think some people might have a bit of confusion when we use the word concerns about credibility. You're not suggesting that the budget isn't credible. What you're suggesting is that some of the information that you do not have makes it difficult for you to fully give your viability stamp of approval to the budget.
That is correct, Siobhan. I'm not saying it is not credible. What I'm saying is that there are some gaps for me to be able to be conclusive in terms of the credibility of it. Some gaps, some of those you have outlined just now.
And highlight some of those words. I know we went through the report, not in great detail, but please highlight the ones you consider to be of the most importance in terms of the information that you require.
Okay, so let me begin by saying that when we think about the budget, as much as there's a lot of focus on the upcoming year, the 2026-27.
Yes.
But the budget is done within a medium-term context. In fact, there's a legal requirement for the government to present a 4-year budget. And ministries, departments, and agencies are required to submit a corporate plan outlining their intended budget over a 4-year period. So the assessment that we would have done covers not just the 26-27, but we look at that 4-year period. And especially within the context of, notwithstanding the fiscal rules being suspended, but the government will actually, after the suspension, be then back into a fiscal rule with a certain debt target. The minister has provisionally set fiscal year 29-30 to get to that target. So we had to do the assessment within the context of the budget as presented, not just for 26-27, but through to 29-30. Are those numbers consistent with getting to that target? And in order to ascertain that, we have to go into details, looking at both the revenue and expenditure that support this target. And that's where we saw some of the gaps, and I've highlighted some of those. For instance, so we had Hurricane Melissa, which was pretty significant. At the time when we did the assessment, the Economic and Fiscal Assessment Report, the preliminary estimate that we saw was for damage and loss at about 1.5 trillion Jamaican dollars.
Yes.
That's about 42% of GDP.
Yes. That's the 8.8 billion that was initial. Yes.
Right, a little more than that. Yesterday, the Planning Institute of Jamaica's presentation showed a significantly higher estimate of damage and losses at about 1.9 trillion or 56% of GDP. So the budget would have been constructed and cast where the estimate of the damage was much less than what we are seeing now. So within that context, I'm saying, do those numbers still hold? Given the new estimate that we have of the damage and losses. That is one aspect to it, Siobhan. The other part of it related to that, the macroeconomic situation has changed compared to what was estimated about a month or two ago. And I look at two variables here. Inflation, for example, when we look at the ministry's medium-term profile, they're reporting an estimated inflation for 25-26 of 10%. That's the estimate for inflation, 10%. Now, based on the outturn that we have seen over the past few months, inflation is
much lower.
It's likely much lower, closer to 5%. So if the budget was cast with that against that kind of inflation, and inflation is turning out much lower, it means that the revenues could likely be overstated. Because if prices are higher, then those revenue items that are related to like GCT, the general consumption tax, the special consumption tax, some of the income taxes, those will also likely be overstated. That is one aspect of it. The other side to it, you'd also have picked up that from the PIOJ's presentation. The contraction in the economy is not expected to be as steep as was forecast or estimated about a month or two ago. So that may have the effect of offsetting some of the overstatings, because if growth is actually going to be better than anticipated, then you may actually get a bit more revenue than what the budget may have done. But you may also get less revenue from the lower inflation. So you will have those two counteracting forces. And which one will dominate? Not sure which one will dominate. And hence, that's why I indicated in the report that based on the updated information, the ministry should really recast the budget using these updated macro information and see what that will show up. Because it may have different implications for your fiscal balance, for your outturn, and for your debt.
Stay with us, Commissioner. We're up on a break, and then we come back with more.
Order Pizza Hut online at pizzahutjamaica.com or through WhatsApp at 876-837-4488. Pizza Hut, now that's delivering. The time by Pizza Hut is...
It's 5:45.
Hey my peeps, get this on the regular. Your HIV status if you consider. The least you ever test once a year. Just 15 minutes and your status clear. Cause it might not show up on your timeline and you learn too late so you're out of time. A progressive future, mandatory. Real long life, our story. You hear?
Remember, update your status in a real life. Go HIV test today.
Just 15 minutes and your status clear. Real long life, our story. Real long life was a youth coming from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
You could win a return on your taxes. Pay your taxes with your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card at Tax Administration Jamaica or online for your chance to be one of 2 lucky winners of $500,000 cashback. Earn an entry for every $100,000 spent on taxes between February 27 and April 15. Plus, enjoy a 1-month payment holiday up to 55 days interest-free and unlimited reward points. Visit Sagicor.com to learn more. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back, listeners, viewers, to The Cover Story. We are talking with the Independent Fiscal Commissioner, that's Courtney Williams, regarding their report on the country's budget. Commissioner Williams, I understand what you're saying, that there is clearly some information that you need to give a more wholesome picture when it comes to the budget itself. But we still have the Standing Finance Committee to meet within a few days. Actually, I think it meets tomorrow. And then we have the opening of the budget debate next week. Are these questions you expect to be answered within those forums?
Certainly, Siobhan. The function of the Standing Finance Committee is to review the budget and sign off on the expenditure that has been presented for each ministry, department, and agency. Now, for the committee to sign off on the budget, it's important that the committee understands what went into the budget. And in terms of what went in, do those do that situation still hold? Do those numbers still hold? So those are important considerations for when the committee meets starting tomorrow to deliberate and decide on the approval of the budget. And that is why it's important, once the budget is tabled, for the Independent Fiscal Commission to have this period of 2 weeks, we were able to do this assessment so that the committee can benefit from this independent assessment of the budget in their deliberations. I expect those issues to come up between the Standing Finance Committee and when the minister opens the budget debate, as well as when the Prime Minister speaks. I expect that they to speak to some of these gaps.
Understood. But there are other issues, though, outside of the immediate numbers themselves. There's some information that you did point out that requires some clarification, and chief among them is the NARA, the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. I don't know to what extent that the Fiscal Commission actually has meetings with the Ministry of Finance or the Cabinet to try and work out how these things operate. But do you have any information, further information regarding how NARA is to function?
No, I don't have any further information. And the importance of that, what I do know is that based on the what's in the budget document, there's a $30 billion provision for NARA in 26-27.
Yes.
But what we don't know are what are the specific projects that will be covered under that. And they depend on what type of projects, whether they are projects in education or health or infrastructure, they will have different implications for the economy. And hence, in terms of the growth forecast, the timing of those expenditures, the drawdown of the facilities, which will mean the timing in terms of when they will come on to the debt. So those are important considerations that are crucial to determining whether or not these forecasts, in terms of the debt trajectory, the relevant fiscal balances, and the extra, those are consistent with getting you to that particular debt target.
And this ties in as well as your concerns when it comes to the capital expenditure, because a lot of that expenditure regarding NARA is tied up in the capital budget, which is essentially doubled compared to the last fiscal year. You suggest that the expectations of spending that doubling of the capital budget is, as you suggest, overly ambitious. Do you see NARA as the solution to that ambition, or are you still concerned?
NARA will help, certainly based on my understanding of NARA and the efforts that will be made to ensure that those procurements are speeded up. But it's not just our problem, it's not just a procurement problem. There are capacity issues as well. So you're not going to just overnight get more contractors available to undertake these projects. So whereas NARA, those projects that are being undertaken by NARA, you may see those being expedited. It may impact other projects when they join on the same kind of capacity. And I can give an example here, Kevin, not strictly speaking for Government of Jamaica expenditure. My understanding, and I'm aware of that, even with respect to entities in the corporate area, new construction, new residential areas, new commercial buildings that required electricity recently. And the information that I was getting was that because the JPSCO has deployed so much of its resources in Western Jamaica, there was actually a delay in providing electricity to some of these new businesses in the corporate area. Again, we're talking about capacity issue there. So those capacity issues will remain. Once they remain, we are not likely to see the significant increase in the execution, even with NARA. I'm saying NARA will help based on how my understanding of how it will be structured and some of the arrangements that will be put in place to ensure that the project can move faster. But NARA is only 30 billion of the 205 billion.
Yes.
That's in the capital budget.
But
so that's less than 15%. So about 85% of the budget will still face some of those issues.
But what's the solution, Courtney Williams, as you see it? Is it then that we have to look elsewhere for that capacity, probably outside the shores of Jamaica?
I'm really not going to be putting recommendations here because that's not really within the remit of the independent fiscal commission.
Fair.
But some of these things, Siobhan, is a kind of almost an inherent issue with in terms of how we do some things, the pace at which we move with things. And these are not just with capital projects. You see it with some other things, how long it takes to get an approval to do certain things. The snail pace at which things move. It affects not just capital projects, there's also some other type of expenditure with government. We see, and not just government, across the country. So there are some of those issues that we really need to look at. The whole issue of productivity. How do we seek to ensure that we can move faster with doing things? In other words, whereas we don't need more haste, we definitely need more speed.
Understood. And I suppose out of all of this, one of the biggest elephants in the room, I think one that we've had so much issues addressing over the years is the matter of the wage settlements and the concerns around that, especially when it comes to what you suggest here is that it's essentially going to double the cost to our GDP compared to what it was at the end of this fiscal year. It's going to be 13.8% compared to 8.8% back in fiscal year 2022-2023. And still, as we head into another budget debate, there are still uncertainties about what is the wage bill going to be going into 2026-2027. Why are we still having such struggles when it comes to these wage settlements?
I think that's a question, really, one we want to pose to both the government and the union. And it's, again, Siobhan, it's within that context we have repeatedly said, let's have compensation negotiation cycles. And in our inaugural report last March, we actually had a scheme of how a compensation negotiation cycle can work, where we indicated a timeline for the unions to make their submission, for the government to respond to those, to set some time within which you'll have the negotiation over a 6-month period, so that you can have the settlement by about 6 months before the budget is due, before the budget is presented. And that would remove almost totally the risk of you having wage settlement more than what's provided for in the budget. It just even more underscore the importance of having that kind of cycle. It's not something that government can just impose on the union. I'm aware of that. But it's something that the government and the unions must talk about. Let us agree on how can we have negotiations and all of them settled within a 6-month period. Siobhan, I'm confident, I'm sure it can be done. I think we can have two willing partners, the government and the unions, because it would benefit both the government as well as the workers to have settled on time. Because right now, these settlements are outstanding from 2025-26. Whenever these settlements are arrived at and paid out, there will be some loss in purchasing power for the workers. It also benefit the workers for you to have settlement in time.
Yes. But tell me, Fiscal Commissioner, you actually did make a recommendation that there be a reintroduction of a wage rule. When you say that, are you speaking to a wage cap or something else specifically?
It's not a wage freeze. It's just to anchor wages against the performance of the economy. We're going to say this is what the economy can afford. So if you link wages to GDP, for example, what it means is that the faster the country grows, the faster the economy grows, the government will actually be in a better position to pay higher wages and salaries. And that would actually then help to shift the narrative, shift the conversation to a more focused, a greater focus on growth if they can get more of the growth, then government can actually pay more in wages. So there's that benefit that would also be had. Apart from the reliability and the risk that you remove, you also have that situation where once you have a greater focus then on the growth, the country will better understand that, hey, if you want more wages, let the economy perform better, and then will actually be the more ideal situation. I think the minister understands that situation very well, and I think she may be minded to want to look at that to give a positive response to that kind of consideration.
Understood. And in just the 2 minutes left to us, Mr. Williams, the Fiscal Commission has been in essential full operation now for about a year, a little over a year. What has it been like, so to speak, in terms of getting the operation off the ground, and how has been the work essentially of the Fiscal Commission?
Well, it has been it hasn't been the most smooth of road in terms of getting the operation up. But the good thing is that we are making steady progress. We have encountered some of those matters I mentioned earlier in terms of the pace of getting things done, the restricted approvals, and so on. So I'm aware of those. I've actually faced it. But the good thing, Siobhan, is that the commission is being built out. We have actually improved recently over the past month or two in terms of the technical capacity of the commission. And so we are able to drill down deeper into some of these issues compared to, say, a year ago. So it's a steady improvement, and we can expect that as we go further, expect the commission to bring more and better information to the public so that the public can be well informed as to how the government is expending your tax dollars. Okay. So we are here to ensure that there's that accountability and that transparency around government operation, and that we will continue to do.
Understood. Last I checked, you had 5 members of staff at the start of the Fiscal Commission's operations. Are you up to your full complement now?
I'm up to about 18 now.
18, understood.
Just about halfway there, but we have had a good cadre of technical staff in place, along with some good support staff.
Understood. That's Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Siobhan, and thanks for being on the program.
Yes. So, listeners, stay with us. The headlines are next, and then we come back with more.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
A minute after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. The latest report from Jamaica's Independent Fiscal Commission is questioning the potential credibility of the budget for the upcoming fiscal year due to concerns over the government's medium-term macroeconomic and fiscal projections. Released on a Tuesday, the report highlights what Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams says are significant gaps in information critical to drawing proper conclusions. But despite the concern, the Commission says Jamaica's fiscal policy remains broadly sustainable. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says funds taken from the National Housing Trust, NHT, are diverted for matters of national importance.
His comments come after the opposition PNP strongly criticized the continued drawdown, calling for the practice to end.
Whilst you can't stop people from being politically convenient, it's the nature of the democracy, but there has to be some honesty in politics. The government isn't taking the resources from the NHT for reasons that are not of national importance and concern. And yes, we acknowledge that these funds are contributed on the basis that they will be used for housing. And this cannot continue forever. The government has to use these resources to strengthen our economic base so that we don't have to take the resources out of the NHT.
The matter is back in the spotlight after the government announced it will continue its annual $11 billion drawdown from the trust for another 5 years. According to the Prime Minister, the issue of NHT finances needs to be seen from a broader context. He says when the government faces a budget deficit, the options to strengthen Jamaica's economic position are limited.
Ultimately, if you don't take the resources from the NHT and you have a massive deficit, you have to fund that deficit. And the only options that will remain to you in funding the deficit is either to cut the services to you or raise the taxes. There are no secret funds anywhere for which the government can deal with deficits. I think the public now understands that the international community is not coming to rescue us. I think the public now understands that borrowing is not an option. And therefore, we have to make wise choices with the resources that we have.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. The government is in the process of establishing a new framework for Jamaica's new electricity license in 2027. Energy Minister Darrell Vaz provided the update at Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing.
In November 2025, the ministry entered a new contract with Francis Maud Associates representing Phase 1 of a structured 3-phase reform process to establish a modernized license framework. The initial phase runs through April 26 and focuses on defining the key commercial, regulatory, and legal foundations for the new regime. The work is being carried out by a dedicated electricity license negotiation team comprises of officers of the Ministry of Energy, Transport and Telecommunications, Attorney General's Chambers, Ministry of Finance and Public Service, the OUR, as well as energy specialists from the private sector and academia.
The minister announced last year that the government would not be renewing its license with the Jamaica Public Service Company under its existing terms. That license will expire in July 2027. Minister Vaz says negotiations with the JPS over a new license will begin upon the completion of the new framework.
A draft heads of terms has already been prepared and submitted for Cabinet's consideration, which was done on Monday and approved, Monday meaning 2 days ago, outlining the principal features of the proposed license framework following Cabinet's approval. The detailed legal structure will be finalized and formal negotiations will commence with the Jamaica Public Service. Beginning in April 26, FMA's broader workstream schedule will advance into a 16-month sectoral framework development and implementation phase.
Darrell Vaz, Energy Minister. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kamina Johnson-Smith, says Jamaica and the U.S. continue to share a healthy relationship despite recent comments made by U.S. congressmen.
Our meetings with Secretary Rubio and members of his delegation, as we all engaged at different levels, was entirely cordial, was productive, and you would see that from the posts made by Secretary Rubio himself. And therefore, there's really no concern regarding misplaced perspective that might be taken by an individual, as opposed to a broad recognition of the strong partnership that continues to subsist between the U.S. and Jamaica.
Writing on X last week, U.S. Congressman for Florida Carlos Jimenez accused the Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, of siding with the Cuban regime. He publicly warned that Jamaica could face consequences for Dr. Holness's position on Cuba, raising concerns about diplomatic pressure and possible sanctions. But Minister Johnson-Smith says the Prime Minister's speech was an accurate depiction of Jamaica's sentiments towards Cuba.
So we took note of the statement, the tweet. I'm not going to elevate it to a statement. We are 100% confident that the broad acceptance and recognition of the Prime Minister's statement was that it was balanced, it was visionary, it was realistic, it expressed the complexity of the circumstances of the relationship of Cuba with the region, while recognizing our grounded and fundamental beliefs in democracy and freedom and open markets as we practice and live here every day.
Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shaloy Smichael. Sports is next.
This station raised me. It gave me a voice. And if Nationwide has ever meant something to you, come on in. Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Every day, Rosie has a glass of fruit drink with breakfast, an energy drink on the way to work, a flavored water with lunch, and 2 glasses of soda with dinner, which adds up to more than 50 teaspoons of sugar a day. And all that extra sugar could bring on obesity. Are we drinking ourselves sick? 71% of Jamaicans support a tax on sugary drinks. Help tackle obesity and protect our children's future. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica.
So some of you have been listening longer than I've been talking on radio. So this is our way of keeping it strong together. Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club on Patreon and stay with us.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alex Raby. We start with some footballers. 2 British-born footballers acquired a Jamaican passport last February and are now on course to represent the country at the FIFA Interconfederation World Cup playoffs in Mexico later this month. Striker Ephraim Mason Clark of Coventry City and Andre Brooks of Sheffield United, both in the English Championships, have confirmed their availability for the 3-team playoffs. Mason Clark is a £10 million rated winger who's registered 7 goals and 5 assists to help Coventry to the top of the standings, 5 clear of their nearest rivals, and on the verge of gaining promotion to the Premier League for next season. Brooks has so far scored 5 goals, also from 31 games this season for Sheffield United, who are currently 13th in the table. 3 other British-born players have also secured passports, but their participation is not yet confirmed. Jamaica will travel to Mexico on March 23 for a playoff with New Caledonia 3 days later. The winner will battle Democratic Republic of Congo on March 30 for a place at the FIFA World Cup Finals later this summer in the United States, Mexico and Canada. Former champions Mount Pleasant Academy and Tivoli Gardens drew 1-1 in their midweek Ray and Never Jamaica Premier League encounter at the Edward Chiaga Complex. Jason Anglin shot Mount Pleasant ahead in the 8th minute. However, Alton Lewis drew Tivoli level in the 72nd minute. Mount Pleasant started the day 6 points behind leaders Montego Bay, who are 10th on the table with 29 points. 2 more games are on in the league on Thursday. Portmore United host Waterhouse and Mullins United visit champions Cavalier. Now, President of the Jamaica Football Federation, Michael Ricketts, says he's brimming with excitement ahead of Saturday's kickoff of the Jamaica Women's Premier League. The league burst into action with 6 matches, signaling what Ricketts believes will be another landmark season for women's football in the country.
I must express my absolute delight, my gratitude to all the stakeholders who would have put their thoughts together. They will have, of course, engaged new sponsors, new teams. So we are very hopeful and expectant that we'll have a very, very exciting and successful Jamaica Women's Premier League for year 2026.
All eyes will be on newcomers Real Mona FC, the only new addition to this year's competition. The club will mark their historic debut against Arnett Gardens at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex. Defending champions Fraser's Whip will be will begin their title defense at Brooks Park, where they face Los Perfectos. Elsewhere, Proven Girls are slated to take on Wi-Fi United at York Sports Complex. Springers United will lock horns with Mile Gully at Irwin High School, while Real Mabay and Federal United square off at Jarrett Park. The day's action will be rounded out at the UWI Bowl, where UWI women host Cavalier. Ricketts says the Federation is on a mission to grow women's football locally.
We are intent on ensuring that we reach out to every single parish, probably every community, to try and get them so organized that they can go through the process of getting into the Women's Premier League. So we have provided a platform, we have provided a kind of a process that once you are interested and you want to play women's football, then get involved, and it's up to you to go through the channels and then, of course, get into the Premiership.
Ricketts emphasized that beyond the trophies and accolades, the league represents a vital platform for development.
The sky's the limit once you stay focused. We are on the rise. We want to reach out to every single young girl. And the sky is the limit once you show some level of interest in women's football, get your academics at a level. I'm assuring you there's a scholarship awaiting you.
Michael Ricketts. Now the race for the English Premier League title tilted decisively in Arsenal's favour on Wednesday following their 1-0 win over Brighton and Manchester City, dropping points at home to Nottingham Forest. Bukayo Saka scored in the 9th minute to give the Gunners victory in their London derby at the Amex Stadium.
Timber bringing the ball forward here. Saka, straight through the goalkeeper and in. He's marked his 300th game for the club with a significant early goal, and it's Arsenal ahead inside 9 minutes.
The win moved Arsenal to 67 points, 7 clear of City, who were held at 2-2 by Nottingham Forest at the Etihad Stadium.
Semenyo, another hugely important moment. Swinging in, a push in the back of Haaland, and the back of the net is bulged, but Manchester City lead again. Anderson, Gibbs White. It's Elliot Anderson! It's another fabulous Forest goal, and once again Nottingham Forest have come from behind. 2-2 at the Etihad.
Arsenal have played one game more than Manchester City. Meanwhile, Brazilian star Joe Pedro bagged his first Premier League hat-trick as Chelsea stormed past Aston Villa 4-1 at Villa Park to improve their chances of Champions League football next season. West Ham United moved further away from the drop zone with a clinical 1-0 win over London rivals Fulham, and Manchester United suffered their first defeat of the Michael Carrick era. They went down 2-1 at Newcastle United. Now, Jamaican international Mikel Antonio gave an emotional tribute to the West Ham fans following confirmation that he'll take his talent to Qatar to join club Al Salia. Antonio ends his career with the Hammers as their all-time leading goal scorer with 68 goals. The 35-year-old added that he's sorry his time at the Etihad's London-based club ended this way.
Hello Hammers fans, and hello everybody else who's going to see this. 10 years as a Hammer was unbelievable for me. My plan was probably to retire at West Ham, but hey, life is life. But there's only one way for Antonio to sign out. And there's got to be a celebration. I was thinking about doing a Homer Simpson, but there's not enough room in it, so I actually can't do that. But it's got to be the Carvin. I love you guys, and thank you for the support.
Antonio is also calling for peace in Qatar as the country is currently involved in the escalating conflict among USA, Israel and Iran. Now to cricket, as CEO of Cricket West Indies, Chris Darin, told Nationwide Sports that there's no timeline on when the West Indies team will depart India. The team has been stuck in Kolkata since Sunday after their elimination at the Super 8 stage of the ICC T20 World Cup. The two-time champions were scheduled to depart for the Caribbean on Monday, but remained grounded due to airspace's closure in the region triggered by the conflict between the USA, Israel and Iran. The ICC, who are responsible For the travelers of all teams to and from the World Cup are working on getting the team out of Asia on a chartered flight into London. They were hoping to have the flight confirmed before latest Thursday, but Deering said the search continues. If they are able to get the players into British capital, they'll then travel to the Caribbean by commercial flight. Finn Allen struck the fastest century in T20 World Cup history as New Zealand demolished 2024 runners-up South Africa by 9 wickets at Eden Gardens to book their place in Sunday's final. Chasing 170 to win, opener Allen bludgeoned 100 not out from 33 balls, including 10 fours and 8 sixes, as a ruthless New Zealand romped to victory at 173 for 1 with 43 balls to spare. Allen bettered Chris Gale's 47-ball century against England in 2016 by 14 deliveries, with his knock also the joint third fastest century in men's T20 internationals. Tim Seifert thrashed a brisk half-century of his own, 58 of 33, as New Zealand's opener put on 117 runs from 55 balls for the first wicket before Allen kicked into overdrive. He smacked 42 runs off just 11 deliveries to dominate his 56-run stand, with Rachin Ravindra including dispatching Jason for 5 consecutive boundaries to complete an emphatic win. South Africa were previously unbeaten at this tournament, including a 7-wicket victory over New Zealand in the initial group phase. Marco Johnson, 55 not out, Dewald Brevis, 34, and Tristan Stubbs, 29, propelled the Proteas from 108 for 5 to 169 for 8. England, the host India, are meeting in the second semi-final in Mumbai on Thursday morning, Jamaica time, starting at 8:30. And finally in basketball, Tirandel Latibadir, power forward for Jamaica's senior men's basketball team, explained that he was pleased to see the support the national team got at the National Indoor Sports Centre for their recent 2 games against the Bahamas and Canada. He believed this shows the country has a growing appetite for basketball.
A little disappointed, because losing at home with the support we have gotten with the crowd. It's a proud moment, but, basketball is developing and, disappointing for sure. The biggest takeaway is we have a lot of work to do. It's good to be humbled so we can grow, because I think after the 2 wins in Puerto Rico, we got a little big-headed. So we're humbled right now. We have to go back to the drawing board and fix our defensive issues. Also, be more composed against these tough teams.
The Jamrockers will next be in action on July 3 when they clash with the Bahamas, and then on July 6 when they face Canada for their final 2 fixtures. The Latibadir says he has taken the responsibility of leading the team on the court.
Trying to be the example of what we need in order to win games at this level. Because at this level, sometimes a team might be more talented than you, but effort, especially in front of your own crowd, your family, you have to give effort.
Tiran Latibadir, I'm Alex Swiby, and that's your sport.
St. Catherine, big news. On Wednesday, March 4, the St. Catherine Parish Court will host a traffic ticket public day. Got a ticket and missed your court date? This is your chance to clear them in an orderly, hassle-free way. But listen up, to be registered for hearing on March 4, you must register by February 20, 2026. Register by visiting the help desk at the parish court or sending a WhatsApp to 876-453-5060 or by emailing traffictickets@jamaicajudiciary.gov.jm. Remember, your matter will be handled in accordance with the law. See you there.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
If you've ever called in, shared your story, or got help on this show, then
then you're already family. Now make it official. Join the nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
He never shies away from taboo topics. Voyagings After Dark.
The most riveting discussions.
Voyagings After Dark.
Topics that are shunned by society.
And everything else in between. Voyagings After Dark with Kareem Voyagings this and every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
You can't miss.
What's buzzing?
Celebrity outfits.
Is that a hit or a miss?
Bust the odds.
Jamaica's Got Talent.
Wait, a war man.
Hot takes.
Talk up the takes.
Actual factual. Life is short. Voyagings After Dark.
Come get your mind blown.
And your curiosity explored.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
You may have been hearing the teasers. Now it's official. Beginning Monday, February 9, 2026, Nationwide News Network launches something special. The Nationwide Family Club, exclusively on Patreon.
With the Family Club, members get early access to our documentaries before anyone else. Some of your favorite segments, including Cliff Says, What's on My Mind, Cover Story, and others, will now be a click away inside the Family Club. There are 3 tiers of membership. First, Bronze, the Family Insider, behind-the-scenes access, Monday motivational videos, members-only chats, and on-air birthdays and anniversary shoutouts.
Second, Silver, Nationwide VIP, breaking news alerts, exclusive documentaries, quizzes, personal milestones celebrated on air, and weekly family roll call mentions. Oh, and for our biggest supporters,
our gold category, elite listener, full archive access, early releases, private studio tours, live show experiences, personalized birthday videos, and exclusive live streams. From historic election coverage to lifetime, impact, Jamaican milestones, and rare archive content. This is Nationwide like you've never seen it before.
Join the family. Support Nationwide 90 FM, the station that informs, entertains, and educates. Visit patreon.com/Nationwide News Network. That's patreon.com/Nationwide News Network. Nationwide Family Club, where you are family, because we see you as family.
Good evening, listeners, viewers. Welcome back. It's time for the nation's business, and we are going to be speaking with the Minister of Energy and Telecommunications, that's Darrell Vaz, who provided quite a few updates this morning at the post cab at Jamaica House. He says Jamaica should know within 2 to 3 months whether commercial quantities of oil and gas have been discovered here in Jamaica. He also gave an update on the work in the Walton and Morant basins at Wednesday's post-cab press briefing. The Walton and Morant license area extends from St. Thomas in the east to Westmoreland in the west. Exploration efforts are being undertaken by United Oil and Gas, a company with its headquarters in the United Kingdom. The company completed its surface geochemical survey on February 28 this year. The survey lasted 34 days, with samples taken from 42 locations across the project area. The samples are now en route to a laboratory in the United States for detailed analysis. The minister says the data will inform the country's energy future. And he joins us now. Good evening, Minister Vaz.
Afternoon to you, listeners.
Good evening to you, sir. So 2 to 3 months, Jamaica is going to know if it joins the annals of Guyana as an oil-producing nation?
I don't know if we can say go that far because you still need to do the actual exploration. But what it will give us is a better indication based on obviously technology that has been used to see whether or not the prospects are that much better. But it's good all around because obviously they have taken the time and spent the money to make sure that they are doing what they need to do to be able to move to the next phase, which will be obviously the actual exploration.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you will provide us with the details as they come and when they're necessary. But to move into the other matters that you discussed at PostCap today, your update regarding the restoration of electricity. I understand we are essentially there.
So let me tell you something. It's really remarkable, and I really want to take time out to congratulate the U-Grant-led JPS for the amazing dedication and work that they have done. I think it matches any first world country in relation to what has taken place. 124 days from a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane to get to 99% restoration with over 600,000 customers, leaving just under 10,000 is absolutely amazing. And I think that it is a good decision by the government to have taken the decision to loan JPS the money, and they have delivered results and made the government keep their commitment as it relates to end of February for full restoration, save and except for the pockets. And I can say very, very confidently that my discussions with JPS this morning, out of the 8,000 odd customers that are out of power still, mainly in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland, that we are planning to get 5,000 of those customers back up in the month of March, and a balance of 3,600 approximately by end of April, which again is in keeping with what we had said originally. So, I mean, I don't want to take the credit the government has done. Was very decisive in their actions, and the JPS has delivered full on the commitment they made to the government and the people of Jamaica.
But tell me, Minister, because I follow the numbers, and I went to the BOJ press conference recently and the PIOJ's press conference regarding the state of the country's economic affairs, and it seems quite universal between those two organizations that things are going back on track well ahead of schedule than they expected, and one of the things pointed to was the speedy restoration of electricity. Do you feel vindicated in your decision? Because I recall you took a lot of flack when you announced that $150 million loan, and then further flack when you had to defend that loan down to the wire.
So what I want to do is just remind the listeners and the country that the decision for the loan of the $150 million US dollars was twofold. First of all, the JPS had indicated to me and to the country that full restoration would be the last quarter of 2026, that's September to December, which was absolutely unacceptable because of the issues, economic, social, and all other issues that would go with a delay. Secondly, we were in a situation where the JPS license only had less than 2 years. July 2027. The hurricane was in October 2025. And basically what the JPS and the multilaterals were putting to us is that we should give them a 10-year extension. A 10-year extension would have meant that we would have been in the same situation with high electricity costs for another 10 years, which would have obviously caused major dislocation in the country in terms of another 10 years. So we were able to separate the both matters by loaning them that $150 million to get early restoration and also to move away from them having to borrow money from the multilaterals with a 10-year extension. So it was a win-win, and I think it's one of the most effective and decisive decisions taken by any government, because the fact of the matter is that what PIOJ said is exactly what nobody expected us to recover at this rate in terms of restoration, and the restoration of electricity drives every other component and factor in a hurricane recovery. So again, I mean, I'm vindicated by the naysayers and those who didn't want, those who love the light now, but didn't want it and wanted to know where the rest of the money was coming from. Let me reiterate again, the government has given no more than the $150 million, and the rest of it has been financed by JPS through their own sources of income. So if you were waiting on the opposition for the other $220 million based on the estimate of $350 million, another government, we wouldn't have any light right now, and we probably wouldn't have any until the end of this year. It's as simple as that.
All right, Minister, stay with us, and when we come back, we talk about the license, that new electricity license that you alluded to.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is...
It's 6:33. Welcome back, listeners, viewers. We're talking with the Minister of Energy and Telecommunications, that's Darrell Vaz, over quite a few topical issues. We talked earlier about the pace of surveys for oil in the country, as well as the restoration of electricity. And now I would love, Minister, to touch on the pursuit of that new electricity license. I understand you provided some further details as to where we stand on that process.
Sure. So basically, on Monday of this week, I went to Cabinet after making a presentation last week, Monday, through the consultants in relation to basically the heads of the terms that we are prepared and are ready to submit to JPS for negotiations. So we have done that, and basically that will now move us to the position of being able to go formally to JPS with obviously our thoughts in relation to the outline of what a new license would look like, and we have set timelines as it relates to working backwards from July 2027 to make sure that at the end of this period, that whether it is JPS or somebody else, we would have a new electricity license that will be available for the next 10 years to 20 years.
And that should be up and running, 2027, correct?
Correct. So what we have done is basically put together a consultancy out of the UK, along with a local team that I put together, which is chaired by former Permanent Secretary Carol Palmer, and of course it has the relevant government entities and agencies, and of course academia and private sector. That is going to move us forward to have a draft white paper setting out, which will be tabled in Parliament, the full scope of the reforms that we are proposing. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, Minister, but speaking to the matter of specifics, though, what are some of those new terms that will be, to your mind, a bare minimum requirement of a new license?
So that would be arrangements for transmission, distribution, and generation, transition support to government, valuation mechanisms where required, and of course, if necessary, competitive engagement of alternative operators. We know the issues that will be outlined shortly in Parliament in relation to some of the things that we wanted to separate distribution from generation, and several other things that are critical to making sure that the reduction of electricity is realized with a new license.
And speaking of the reduction in electricity, I mean, we can talk on the broad scale as much as we want, but I think a lot of Jamaicans want to know, what are we aiming for in terms of where do we see electricity costs going in terms of a reduction that would be satisfactory to not only the government but the people of Jamaica as a meaningful change in what we have to pay currently?
So the fact of the matter is that we know that we are much higher than the norm in this region. Obviously, with what's happening now in Iraq, we know what the situation is. It's very, very, very vulnerable situation. We can't account for what's going to happen there. But bottom line is there are some fundamentals that are known that we need to address, which will make sure that we get reduction in electricity, renegotiation of PPAs, all of what goes into the making of electricity, technical losses, which obviously categorize theft, which is a major problem, which is passed on to the consumer. So the fact is that we know what the hindrances are. And we're gonna make sure that the team that we have put together will negotiate a reasonable license that will allow, obviously, for the provider to make a profit, but to make sure that it is balanced. That really is the key. Is the key to what we're trying to obtain.
But you can't give me an actual, say, 20% reduction, 30% reduction in
I don't want to quote as yet until such time as we know where we are with the negotiations and keep you abreast. I don't want to preempt.
Very well, Minister.
We're at a very vulnerable, sensitive stage of the start of this negotiation.
Very well, Minister. Then just the final matter on my mind. As you raised the matters relating to the Middle East and the concerns about the Strait of Hormuz and oil and gas prices as they stand now, which are going up as a result of that conflict, how do we fare here in Jamaica in terms of Petrojam and its supplies?
Well, up to now we're good in terms of having stable supplies. Of course, we have different countries that we purchase from. It's early days. We expect, obviously, that there will be an increase. But Petrojam is the structure of their pricing has a mechanism to kind of protect as best as possible sudden changes in the prices. So we're going to watch it carefully, but we're going to keep Jamaica posted in relation to every step of the way as things develop in that region there. But obviously, Petrojam is having a refinery at this time in this region is an asset. Whereas before it was a question was being raised as to whether or not we divest Petrojam, close down the refinery, etc., etc. I think there are huge opportunities that can come out of what is taking place with the geopolitical tensions in the region and around the world. So that is also something that we're looking at very keenly as to what opportunities arise coming out of the situation that we are in. And we are looking at that to take advantage of it, to make sure that we can, obviously, out of adversity comes opportunity.
Understood, Minister. But as you're suggesting there, I mean, we can expect price increases. You don't control the price of a cost of a barrel of oil, but you're suggesting that Petrojam will, to some extent, try to limit that increase over a period of time?
Yes, there's a mechanism in the pricing structure for sunrises. I mean, obviously, it won't last forever. But as of right now, if it is that is required, we will implement it to cushion the heavy spikes if that occurs, at least in the short term.
Understood. And these opportunities for Petrojam, as you spoke, I remember that matter of I believe it was quite a while ago, that committee that met and tabled its report regarding the
Zachary report.
Future, yes, the Zachary report in terms of the future of Petrojam. Has the government now finally come to a conclusion as to what they intend to do with Petrojam in the long term?
Well, I think what is happening around the region and the world is making that decision for us in terms of how do we maximize and benefit from having a refinery one of the only refineries in this region now, and the opportunities that arise in relation to what's taking place regionally. So I think it's an asset to have a refinery at this point, and it's a matter of how do we utilize the refinery now to maximize on the opportunities that are coming forward as a result of what's taking place. And you'll hear more about that because there are several discussions taking place. One as late as today with the Prime Minister with in relation to the same possibilities for Petrojam. So I'm sure by my sectoral presentation, I will have a big part of it to put in relation to the future of Petrojam and the refinery.
Understood. But in your eyes, the refinery remains viable?
Absolutely. If with the opportunities that are coming forward now, if it is ever a time to be viable, it will be in the coming years. Obviously, if we take the right decisions. It is an asset to have a refinery at this time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Understood. That is Minister of Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, Darrell Vaz. Thank you for joining us this evening, Minister.
All right, and we look forward to getting the 8,600 customers connected. We're not leaving them out, okay?
Understood. Very well said, Minister. Have a good evening.
All the best to you.
We take a break, listeners, and then we come back with Around the World, and we take a trip to Trinidad and Tobago.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
From the biggest tracks to the biggest energy, Nationwide keeps it moving. If you love the vibes, come and lock in with us for real.
World boss, leave a prison could stop me.
Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Practice. God me say you watch you over me practice.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, by God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path. Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
As a parent, you give your children a good start in life. You nurture, protect, and guide them. Parenting is a process that prepares your child for independence. As your child grows and develops, there are many things you can do to help your child. Stay tuned to The Big Show, nationwide this morning for parenting tips. Fridays at 6:53 a.m. Only here will you learn everything you need to know about parenting. Tips to help parents navigate the incredibly challenging and rewarding journey of child rearing. Parenting tips on Nationwide at 90 FM, the revolution in media.
He never shies away from taboo topics. Voyagings After Dark.
The most riveting discussions.
Voyagings After Dark.
Topics that are shunned by society.
And everything else in between. Voyagings After Dark with Kareem Voyagings this and every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
You can't miss.
What's buzzing?
Celebrity outfits.
Is that a hit or a miss?
Bust the odds.
Jamaica's Got Talent.
Wait, a war man.
Hot takes.
Talk up the takes.
Actual factual. Life is short. Voyagings After Dark.
Come get your mind blown.
And your curiosity explored.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
It's Monday. Get over your blues. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
The E-Zone is here for you.
With the Stinger Honeybee.
And Kareem Boyatings
From 3 to 5 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
We've got your entertainment news.
Then we want to hear your views. Why you said?
Jump in the mix.
Or the hot seat.
Don't miss our brain busters.
Or the crazy giveaways.
Let's talk fashion.
Send us your outfit of the day. Ooh, cutesy. Very demure.
Are you looking for love?
Come on one of our blind dates. Send your request to ezoneblindates@gmail.com. That's ezoneblindates@gmail.com.
And stay tuned for your confessions.
These are my confessions. Share them with us at ezoneconfessions@yahoo.com. I mean, is this planet Earth?
Is it?
I don't know. Let me check. Either way, it's got a buzz.
And a bugger thing.
Ow! Ow!
Wake up, Jamaica.
It's another glorious day on Nationwide this morning. From your 6 a.m. alarm to the news at 6. Coming up in the news at 6 to me telling you what's on my mind.
To more news at 7 a.m. Coming up in the news at 7. And then the biggest issues dissected, interrogated and discussed on the front page. Nationwide this morning fires you up and sets you right for the remainder of the day.
And there's much more until 9 a.m. Want to know which roads to avoid on your morning commute?
Time now for Street Smarts 2 with Ludlow McLean.
Listen to Street Smart.
Want to hear more about things happening at the community level outside the bustling corporate area? Listen to Across Jamaica.
George, it's someone's birthday.
Happy birthday, yeah, my friend.
And that someone will hear a special greeting every morning via the Birthday Club.
Nationwide this morning on the revolution in media.
It's coffee, tea, and everything else
for those who want an energetic, rip-roaring start to their day.
Everything loud and wicked every Saturday 3 to 5 p.m. with Outside with Pepita. Loan vibes, loan laughs, and loan entertainment. Come on the road with me. Cause when we say Outside with Pepita, we're there all over Jamaica. Anyway, check them out. We're there. We're in on the business. Stay tuned in for prizes, surprises, giveaways, guest artists, and enough more. But hold on there. Don't forget to big up my DJ. DJ Jerome, the Shell Boss, I'm gonna make your bust to pew pew with the maddest, baddest, and latest tune. So look out for Outside with Pepita. we might be coming to a town near you. You heard it here first. Outside with Pepita, Saturdays 3 to 5 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM. The new revolution in media. Jamaica, lock it in and don't miss a thing.
Welcome back, listeners, viewers. Thank you for joining me around the world. And we are heading to Trinidad and Tobago, which is again under a state of emergency. While there is no curfew at this time, the regulations grant sweeping powers that could affect social media use, protests, police searches, and detention. According to Trinidad's Guardian newspapers, the regulations do not specifically mention social media, but contain broad language that can apply to online platforms. It is an offense to endeavor, orally or otherwise, to influence public opinion in a manner likely to be prejudicial to public safety. It is also an offense to have an article in your possession with the intent of making or facilitating such an endeavor. An article could include a mobile phone, computer, or other electronic device. Well, to discuss further, we're joined by senior reporter at Guardian Media, Jensen Lavendi. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. I apologize for the technical difficulties that we had earlier on.
That's right. It's good to have you with us, Sir Vendi. So please explain to us this new measure. What is the mood like there in TAT as a result of the imposition of another state of emergency?
No, just to be clear and to correct, this is not a new measure in terms of the
extension, continuation.
Yeah, no, with regards to the social media and the monitoring of it, that is not new. That was there in the last state of emergency, which ended at the end of January. It's highlighted more now because in the last state of emergency, there were people who were arrested and detained for making statements against the Prime Minister. One person even arrested for making statements against an opposition senator. So coming out of that, and we're seeing this now, people are more alert and more concerned that posts on social media can land them in prison for, well, we would estimate 6 months, because we foresee that this state of emergency would get its original 2 weeks, and then the 2 extensions allowed under law. Yes. So that's why some people are a bit antsy about this regulation.
I see here from Kamala Bissessa herself some very strong language that she used when the state of emergency were put in place, suggesting that not only would she be going after the gang members who she says is responsible for the increase in crime, but also their families. A very, very strong wording from the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the last state of emergency, but one of the important factors here is that after the last state of emergency ended in January, or to the end of January, there was the introduction of the Zone of Special Operations Bill, the ZOSO bill, which we patterned from Jamaica.
Yes.
As you're probably well aware. And that failed. And after that failed, many people predicted, if you want to use that word, that this would be the outcome, that there would be another state of emergency, because more or less the ZOSO would have given the police officers, given the state some measure of state of emergency authority without having to declare a nationwide state of emergency in terms of locking down areas and, imposing curfews and these things. So once those areas were identified as states of in need of special operation,
yes,
then those things would have been implemented. So this is nothing this is not a surprise to some. Some believe it was a surprise, or it is a surprise, but for many, it was expected after the Zone of Special Operations was defeated. The next thing that we're looking at, though, is whether or not at the end of this period, because they did promise to reintroduce the bill later on, that if it comes back up, whether it would get the support of the independent senators, which it needs in order for it to pass this time around. And I think the reintroduction of the state of emergency is sort of a warning, because both the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister, the Attorney General, and the Minister of Homeland Security would have mentioned the lack of resources is why there was a need for the state of emergency. And yeah, so we were expecting that the bill would come back and the bill will be passed.
And what is the reaction from the average TNT citizen in terms of both the reimposition of the state of emergency and the expectation of bringing that zone of special operation legislation back?
Well, the reintroduction of the state of emergency has left many people confused. A lot of people are just questioning why the need for a state of emergency, given that we just came out of one less than 30 days ago, because there's less than 30 days in February. What they're more concerned with is the impact and the success rate of the state of emergency, because the last time it was called, we had a number of people being arrested, detained for up to 6 months, some less, but no charges. And one of those issues, one of the main issues, was the threat against the defense minister, the threat against the life of the defense minister, where 4 people, including a police officer, was detained in relation to that. And all 4 were released without charges. And I recall when the state of emergency ended, just about a day or two afterwards, asking, well, if the state of emergency was called because of this threat to the government minister, not putting one life above another, but certainly a government minister's life being threatened would garner a certain level of concern over the average citizen. And we have that, and nobody was arrested. Well, nobody was charged, and no conviction brought in that. And the public looking on would think that something is wrong there. If you have enough information that you can identify these people as plotting to murder a government minister, and at the end of it, no charges, a lot of people were left thinking that the entire state of emergency was just a crime-fighting tool, and strictly a crime-fighting tool in order to keep the numbers down. And as we have seen in the past, as long as a state of emergency is in play, there will be a reduction in murder rates. And immediately after that, you will start to see a spike. We have reported on this extensively after every state of emergency that we would have had, especially those called in recent times to deal with crime. At the end of it, there's a period where we are seeing the numbers in terms of murders increasing significantly when compared to the time frame of the state of emergency. So coming out of the state of emergency, we had 2 mass shootings. And when I say mass shootings, more than 1 person getting killed. So that happened immediately after the state of emergency, which made people, link the two and say, well, we're expecting one of 2 things to happen: heavy-handedness from the police service or a state of emergency.
Unfortunately, Mr. Levende, we're just out of time. I really wish we could continue, but unfortunately, we just don't have the time. My apologies there. That's senior reporter for the Guardian Media, Jensen Levende. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully, we can actually take up this conversation on a different date.
No problem. I hope so too as well. Take care.
Okay, have a good evening. So, listeners, viewers, that's where we have to leave it. Thank you for joining me for Nationwide at 5 this afternoon. Please stay tuned for the comments section with Shaloy Smikle and Mahiri Stewart. Thanks to our super producer this afternoon, that's Damian Scarlett, and our technical operator, Andrew the Glen, the big man, Boogs Anderson, and thanks to the news and production department led by the very capable Cara Powell. I'm Siobhan Campbell signing off. Have a good evening.
Every day, Jamaicans